Captain Lee Jae-sung stood on the bridge of his cargo ship called New Seoul and watched the alien patrol ships moving closer to them. The red warning lights were flashing on every screen in front of him, and his crew was getting nervous again. This was the 5th time this month that alien ships had stopped them and demanded money just for traveling through space. The human cargo vessel New Seoul was not a warship. It was just a simple trading vessel that carried medical supplies, medicine, and food to colonies that needed help. Lee Jae-sung and his 12 crew members had been working for 3 years to help people across the galaxy, but every alien government they met treated them like criminals or slaves. Navigator Park Min-ho was sitting at his station looking at the approaching alien ships on his screen. He was only 25 years old and had joined the crew because he wanted to see the galaxy and help people in need. Instead, he had learned that aliens thought humans were stupid and weak. Park Min-ho had been working 18 hours every day for months trying to find safe routes through space, but alien patrol ships always found them and demanded. Tribute engineer Kim So-ra was in the engine room trying to fix the power systems with broken parts and old equipment. The aliens charged humans 3 times the normal price for everything they needed. Kim So-ra was one of the best engineers in human space, but she had to work with garbage because alien suppliers would not sell good equipment to humans. She had not slept properly in weeks because something was always breaking down on the ship communications. Officer Choi Dae-hyun was monitoring the alien radio channels and listening to what they were saying about humans. The aliens were laughing about how easy it was to take money from human traders. They called humans weak and stupid and said humans would never fight back. Choi Dae-hyun had not seen his wife and children in 8 months because human ships were always given the worst routes that took forever to travel. The Vorthan Empire patrol ships were getting closer, and their commander was already talking on the radio. His voice was mean and full of hate when he spoke to the human ship in the universal trade language. All alien species used this language for business, but they always sounded angry when talking to humans. Lee Jae-sung had been the captain of this ship for 2 years, but before that he had been a soldier in the human Colonial Defense Force. He had fought in 3 different wars and had saved alien colonies from disasters. He had helped build the trade routes that made all the alien governments rich. But even after everything humans had done to help, the aliens still treated them like dirt. The Vorthan commander spoke again over the radio, and his words made everyone on the bridge angry. He said humans were stupid animals who should be happy to pay taxes to their betters. He said humans were lucky the Vorthans did not just take their ship and sell them as slaves. He laughed while he said these things like it was all a big joke to him. Something strange happened inside Lee Jae-sung when he heard those words. It was not anger exactly, but something much colder and more dangerous. He looked around at his crew and saw that they all had the same expression on their faces. They were tired of being pushed around. They were tired of being treated like criminals when they were trying to help people. They were tired of working so hard just to have aliens steal their money. Park Min-ho slowly moved his hand toward the weapons control panel. The New Seoul was not supposed to be a fighting ship, but Lee Jae-sung had made sure it had some weapons hidden inside, just in case Kim So-ra appeared on the bridge from the engine room, and she was carrying a tool belt full of equipment that could be used to hurt people if necessary. Choi Dae-hyun started typing on his communication console, but he was not trying to call for help. The other crew members came to the bridge one by one. Mechanic Han Dong-woo brought some of his heavy tools with him. Medical officer Yoon Soo-jin came from the medical bay, and she looked angry. Dr. Park Ji-won was there too, and he was not smiling like he usually did. Cargo supervisor Kim Tae-hyun came up from the cargo hold, and he was carrying something that looked like a weapon. Security Chief Nam Young-soo had been waiting for this moment for a long time. He was an ex-soldier like the captain, and he had been watching alien patrol ships bully human traders for years. Now he was checking his sidearm and making sure it was ready to fire. Pilot Lee Min-young was at her station preparing the ship for combat flying. Even though she had never expected to fight anyone, cook Shin Ha-young came from the kitchen, and she was angry because the aliens had taken their food supplies so many times that the crew was eating emergency rations. Database manager Choi Sun-woo was angry because aliens had hacked their computer systems and stolen their trade information. Maintenance worker Park Kyung-ho was angry because he had to fix things with broken parts while aliens used the best equipment money could buy. All 12 humans on the ship looked at their captain and waited for his decision. They had followed Lee Jae-sung across the galaxy because they believed in helping people and making the universe a better place, but they were done being nice to aliens who treated them badly. They were done accepting insults and theft just because aliens thought humans were weak. The Vorthan commander was still talking on the radio, demanding that the humans hand over half their medical supplies as payment for crossing through Vorthan space. He said if the humans did not pay immediately, the Vorthans would destroy their ship and take everything. The alien was laughing while he made these threats because he thought humans would never fight back. Lee Jae-sung picked up the radio microphone and spoke in a calm, quiet voice that his crew had never heard before. He said negative to the alien commander. He said they were keeping their medical supplies and the alien ship should move away. The captain did not sound scared or angry. He sounded like a man who had made a decision and would not change his mind. The Vorthan commander stopped laughing and his voice became very angry. He said the humans would die for refusing to pay taxes. He said human scum deserved to be destroyed for not showing proper respect to their alien superiors. He ordered his patrol ships to power up their weapons and prepare to attack the human cargo vessel. That was when something important happened inside every human. On the New Sol, they all realized at the same time that they were tired of running away from aliens who wanted to hurt them. They were tired of being polite to creatures who called them animals and slaves. They were tired of working so hard to help people who hated them just for being human. Lee Jae-sung looked at his crew and saw that they were all thinking the same thing. They had tried to be peaceful, they had tried to be helpful, they had tried to be good neighbors to the alien species in the galaxy, but the aliens did not want peace or friendship. They wanted to use humans as servants and steal from them whenever they felt like it. Park Min-ho was already calculating firing solutions for the alien ships. Kim So-ra was rerouting power to weapons and shields that the aliens did not know existed. Choi Dae-hyun was opening communication channels to every human ship and station within 100 light years. The rest of the crew was preparing for the first battle in what would become a war that changed the galaxy forever. The aliens had made a terrible mistake. They had pushed humans too far, and now they were about to learn why the human species had conquered their own planet before reaching the stars. They were about to discover that humans were much more dangerous than anyone had ever imagined, but the humans on the New Sol were not thinking about war or conquest. They were just tired of being treated badly by creatures who should have been their friends. And when humans get tired of being pushed around, they do not just fight back, they change everything. The Vorthan patrol ships opened fire on the human cargo vessel New Sol, expecting the humans to surrender or die quickly like all the other weak species they had bullied over the years. But Captain Lee Jae-sung and his crew were not like other traitors. The aliens had made a big mistake because they did not know that every human on that ship was a trained fighter who had chosen to become a peaceful traitor after years of war. Engineer Kim So-ra had been waiting for this moment, and her hands moved across the engine controls like she was playing music. She had spent months building secret modifications to the ship systems while the aliens thought she was just fixing broken equipment. Now she rerouted power through hidden circuits that made the New Sol move like a dancing bird instead of a heavy cargo ship. The alien weapons missed the target completely because the human ship was spinning and twisting through space in ways that confused their computers. Navigator Park Min-ho had studied alien ship designs for 3 years, not because he wanted to fight them, but because he loved learning how things worked. Now he knew exactly where every Vorthan ship kept its weapons, its shields, and its weak spots. His targeting information was perfect. The first Vorthan patrol ship exploded in a ball of fire when the New Sol hit its shield generator with a precisely aimed shot. The second ship lost all power when Park Min-ho targeted its main reactor. The third ship started spinning out of control when its navigation system was destroyed. The fourth and final ship tried to run away, but Kim So-ra had made the New Sol faster than any cargo ship. Had a right to be communications officer. Choi Dae-hyun was doing something that would change the entire galaxy forever. Instead of calling for help or trying to negotiate with the aliens, he opened channels to every human ship station and colony within radio range. His message was very simple, and every human who heard it understood. Exactly what it meant. He said the aliens had finally pushed humanity too far, and it was time to stop being nice. He said the war was starting now, and every human in the galaxy needed to choose whether they wanted to keep being slaves or start fighting. Back his message reached hundreds of human ships and thousands of human workers in less than an hour, Captain. Lee Jae-sung watched the burning alien ships on his screen, but he did not celebrate or smile. He just looked at his crew with the same cold expression they all shared and started planning what they would do next. The destruction of 4 alien patrol ships was not revenge, it was just the beginning of something much bigger: security. Chief Nam Young-soo was already contacting other human security officers on stations and colonies throughout the sector. He had been keeping lists of aliens who had mistreated humans, and now he was sharing those lists with people who could do something about it. Pilot Lee Min-young was calculating jump routes to human colonies that needed weapons and supplies for the fighting that was coming. Medical Officer Yoon-soo Jin was preparing medical supplies for human casualties, but she was also thinking about all the times alien hospitals had refused to treat human patients. Cook Shin Hae-young was rationing food for a long journey, but she was also remembering how aliens had stolen their food supplies and left human colonies to starve all across human space. Similar fights were happening. Human freighter captains who had been bullied and robbed by alien patrol ships were suddenly fighting back. Human station commanders who had been forced to pay bribes to alien officials were refusing to cooperate. Human colony governors who had watched their people suffer under alien taxes were declaring independence. The aliens had spent decades treating humans like servants and slaves. They had thought humans were weak because humans preferred to work and build instead of fighting and conquering. They had thought humans would never organize because humans seemed to care more about helping each other than about politics and power, but the aliens had not understood what they were seeing. When humans worked together to build things, they were also learning to work together for everything else. When humans helped each other during disasters, they were also building the trust and friendship that would let them fight together. When humans shared knowledge and technology, they were also creating the networks they would need for war. On the mining colony of New Daegu, human miners who had been forced to work extra shifts for alien corporations suddenly stopped working and started building weapons. On the research station New Incheon, human scientists who had been sharing their discoveries with alien governments started keeping their knowledge secret. On the farming world of New Bisan, human farmers who had been selling food to alien markets began storing supplies for human colonies. Instead, the message from Choi Dae-hyun reached Dr. Yoon Ji-hye on the communications hub at New Seoul Station. She was supposed to be retired after building the quantum networks that connected human colonies, but when she heard that humans were finally fighting back, she smiled for the first time in years. She started making calls to every human engineer and programmer she knew. Systems Administrator Kong Min-soo worked for an alien bank that processed financial transactions. For 3 sectors, he had been watching alien corporations steal money from human businesses for years, but his supervisors had told him to ignore it. Now those same supervisors were about to learn what happened when they made enemies of people who controlled their computer systems. Database engineer Song Hai Jin managed medical records for alien hospitals that charged humans 10 times normal prices for basic treatment. She had kept quiet about the discrimination because she needed her job to support her family, but now she was thinking about all the humans who had died because they could not afford alien medical care network. Security Chief Nam Tae-woo had spent 15 years protecting alien government computers from hackers and cyber attacks. He knew every weakness and every secret entrance in their systems. The aliens had trusted him completely because humans had a reputation for being honest and reliable. They were about to learn that honest people could be the most dangerous enemies. As the news of the fight at New Seoul spread through human space, something amazing happened. Humans who had never met each other before started working together, like they had been planning this for years. Cargo ship captains shared information about alien patrol routes. Station engineers coordinated attacks on alien communication systems. Colony governors organized supply lines for human military units. The aliens had made the mistake of thinking that because humans were peaceful, they were also weak. They had not realized that humans had been peaceful by choice, not because they did not know how to fight. They had not understood that human civilization was built on cooperation and organization, which were exactly the skills needed for warfare. Captain Li Jie Sung set course for the human colony of New Guangzhou, where other human ships were gathering. The New Soul was no longer just a cargo vessel, it was now the flagship of a rebellion that would shake the entire galaxy. The crew worked together with the same efficiency they had used for trading, but now they were preparing for war instead of commerce. The galaxy was about to learn why every human military doctrine started with the same phrase when diplomacy fails. Remove the problem, and after decades of failed diplomacy, humans were ready to start removing problems. Dr. Yunji Hai was supposed to be enjoying her retirement on the peaceful world of New Bizan, where she spent her days growing vegetables in her garden and reading books about ancient Earth history. She was 65 years old and had worked for 40 years building the quantum communication networks that connected human colonies across the galaxy. But when the message from Choi Daehyun reached her personal computer, she did not hesitate for even 1 second. Within 2 hours, she had contacted every human communications expert, systems engineer and network administrator she had trained during her long career. The galaxy ran on human-built communication systems, human-designed computer networks, and human-maintained infrastructure. The aliens had been happy to let humans do all the boring technical work while they focused on making money and controlling politics. That was about to become their biggest mistake, because they had never realized that the people who built their civilization could also destroy it. Dr. Yunji Hai had designed the quantum relays that allowed faster-than-light messages to travel between star systems. She had written the software that managed interstellar banking. She had trained the engineers who maintained every important computer system in known space systems. Administrator Kong Min-Soo worked in the Central Trade Network, building on Vorthan Prime, where he managed the massive computer system that processed every financial transaction in the galaxy. He had been watching alien corporations cheat human businesses for years, but his alien supervisors always told him to ignore the complaints. Now those same supervisors were about to learn what happened when they made an enemy of someone who controlled their money. Kong Min-Soo started his attack at exactly midnight Vorthan time, when most of the alien supervisors were sleeping at home. He began by making small changes to the banking software that would not be noticed for several days. Alien government accounts that had been filled with taxes stolen from human traders suddenly showed zero balances. Corporate savings accounts belonging to companies that cheated human workers were emptied, and the money was transferred to human disaster relief funds. Database engineer Song Hai-jin worked at the Galactic Medical Center, where she managed health records for 3 entire sectors. She had watched alien hospitals refuse to treat human patients. Alien pharmaceutical companies charge humans 10 times normal prices for medicine, and alien insurance companies deny claims that would have been approved automatically for other species. She had kept quiet and done her job for 10 years, but she was not going to stay quiet anymore. Song Hai-jin had access to the medical records of every important alien politician, military commander, and corporate executive in her sectors. She knew which ones used illegal drugs, which ones had embarrassing diseases, and which ones had lied about their health to get important jobs. Now she was going to share that information with everyone. Network Security Chief Nam Tae-woo had spent 15 years protecting alien government systems from hackers, cyber attacks, and information thieves. He knew every password, every security weakness, and every secret entrance in the computer networks that ran the galactic government. The aliens had trusted him completely because humans had a reputation for being honest and reliable people who never broke their promises. But Nam Tae-woo had never promised to protect alien systems from other humans, and he was about to show the aliens exactly how much damage one angry human could do. When he decided to stop being helpful, he started by changing all the passwords on the most important government computers so the alien officials could not access their own files. Then he began downloading secret military plans, diplomatic communications, and financial records. Transportation coordinator Kim Byung-ho managed the computer systems that controlled cargo ships, passenger liners, and military vessels throughout the hegemony space. He had watched alien customs officials steal cargo from human ships, alien immigration officers mistreat human passengers, and alien military Commanders threatened human colonies. Now he was going to make sure those same aliens experienced some problems of their own. Kim Byung-ho began reprogramming navigation systems so alien cargo ships would be sent to random destinations instead of their planned routes. Passenger liners found their life support systems playing human music at maximum volume 24 hours a day. Military patrol ships discovered their weapons had been replaced with systems that launched fireworks instead of missiles. Communications engineer Park Soo-jin worked for the Galactic Broadcasting Network, where she managed the systems that transmitted news, entertainment, and emergency messages to billions of people across hundreds of worlds she had seen. Alien news programs mock human culture. Alien entertainment shows portray humans as stupid slaves, and alien emergency broadcasts ignore disasters in human colonies. Now Park Soo-jin was using her access to broadcast systems to show the galaxy what aliens really thought about the species they claimed to respect. She started transmitting private communications between alien officials that showed how much they hated and feared humans. She broadcast secret recordings of alien military commanders discussing plans to enslave human colonies. She made sure everyone could see the real faces of the aliens who pretended to be civilized. The attacks started small and seemed like random technical problems. At first, alien officials thought their computer systems were just having bad luck. But as the problems got worse and spread to more systems, they began to realize something terrible was happening. Their human employees were not just quitting their jobs, they were actively sabotaging everything they had built on Vorthen Prime, the capital world of the empire that had been taxing human traders. The power grid began experiencing failures that always seemed to happen at the worst possible times. Traffic control systems started routing vehicles into construction zones and dead-end streets. The planetary communication network kept dropping calls whenever alien officials tried to coordinate their response to the crisis. Prime Minister Thegvorthug tried to contact the human technical teams that normally fix these problems and discovered that every single human engineer, programmer, and systems administrator in Vorthen space had quit their jobs on the same day. The few alien technicians who tried to repair the damage found that all the documentation was written in human languages they could not read. Banking systems across alien space began processing transactions incorrectly in ways that always hurt alien accounts while helping human businesses. Government databases became corrupted and started displaying embarrassing personal information about alien officials instead of normal records. Military communication networks were hacked and began broadcasting children's songs instead of orders. The worst part for the aliens was that they could not fight back against enemies they could not see. Human engineers and programmers were attacking from inside the systems they had built using access codes and security passwords that only humans knew. The aliens had been so dependent on human technical expertise that they had never learned how their own civilization actually worked. Dr. Yoon-ji coordinated the largest cyber warfare operation in Galactic history from her small house on New Bizan, using nothing more than her personal computer and 40 years of experience building the networks that connected the galaxy. She contacted human technical workers on thousands of worlds and gave them instructions for shutting down different systems at exactly the right times as alien governments struggled with collapsing infrastructure and failing communication networks. Dr. Yoon-ji began the final phase of her plan. She started shutting down the quantum communication relays that allowed faster than light messages to travel between star systems. Without these relays, alien governments could not coordinate their response to the human uprising because they could not talk to each other. The galaxy was learning a lesson that should have been obvious from the beginning. Humans had not just joined galactic civilization as junior partners, they had become the foundation that everything else was built on. And now that foundation was crumbling because the aliens had forgotten that foundations could choose not to support the weight above them. Within 1 week, alien governments found themselves unable to communicate with each other, unable to access their own databases, unable to control their transportation systems, and unable to manage their money. The humans who had built their civilization were tearing it down with the same efficiency they had used to construct it, and this was only the beginning. The collapse of alien civilization started slowly like a small crack in a dam that grows bigger until the whole structure falls apart. On Vorthan Prime, the most powerful world in the Empire that had been bullying human traders for decades, the problems began as minor annoyances that quickly became major disasters. The power grid failed during the most important government meetings, leaving alien officials sitting in dark rooms, wondering what had happened to their human maintenance cruise traffic. Control systems throughout the capital city began routing ground vehicles into dead ends, construction zones, and restricted military areas, causing massive traffic jams that lasted for days. The planetary communication network kept dropping calls at the worst possible moments, like when military commanders were trying to coordinate their response to the growing crisis. Banking systems processed transactions incorrectly, always in ways that moved money from alien accounts to human relief. Organization's Prime Minister Thek Vorthek of the Vorthan Empire had spent 20 years treating humans like useful animals who existed only to serve their alien superiors. He had personally signed the laws that forced human traders to pay triple taxes and had laughed when human diplomats complained about unfair treatment. Now he was discovering what happened when those useful animals decided to stop being useful. The Prime Minister tried to contact Dr. Kim Hae-won, who was the chief systems engineer for all government computers on Vorthan Prime. Dr. Kim had worked for the Vorthan government for 15 years and had always been polite, helpful, and completely reliable. But when Prime Minister Thak tried to call her, he discovered that Dr. Kim had quit her job and returned to human space along with every other human technical worker on the planet without human engineers to maintain the computer systems that ran. Vorthan civilization began failing in ways that seemed almost designed to cause maximum embarrassment. Government databases started displaying the Prime Minister private communications on public information screens, including his messages about how much he hated humans and his plans to reduce them to slavery. Transportation systems began sending official government vehicles to human colonies where they were impounded for unpaid taxes. Meanwhile, database engineer Song Hai-jin was having more fun than she had experienced in 10 years of working for aliens, who treated her like a servant. With a few keystrokes on her computer, she made the medical records of every alien politician in 3 sectors available to public viewing. The galaxy learned that Senator Grix Thalarin had been taking illegal performance drugs, that Prime Minister Thak Vorthek suffered from an embarrassing skin condition, and that Admiral Zek Worthen had been lying about his age and health to stay in command of military fleets. Corporate executives discovered their private communications being broadcast during primetime entertainment programs so billions of people could hear. Alien business leaders discussing how much they enjoyed cheating human workers and stealing from human businesses. Military commanders found their secret battle plans posted on public information networks where enemy governments could read their strategies and human colonies could prepare defensive systems. Administrator Kang Min-soo was taking a more direct approach to solving the problem of alien oppression. He simply turned off the money with the same casual efficiency he had used to process banking transactions. For years, bank accounts belonging to corporations that had exploited human workers suddenly showed zero balances. Government pension funds vanished into digital nowhere. Private savings accounts of alien officials who had taken bribes from human businesses were emptied overnight. The Galactic stock exchange crashed when Kang Min-soo reprogrammed the trading computers to sell all alien-owned investments and use the money to buy stock in human companies. Insurance companies that had refused to pay claims from human customers found their own accounts frozen. Interstellar shipping corporations that had overcharged human traders discovered they could no longer access the money in their accounts. Transportation coordinator Kim Byung-ho focused his attacks on the movement systems that kept alien civilization functioning. Cargo ships carrying luxury goods to alien worlds found their navigation computers sending them to human refugee camps, where the supplies were distributed to people who actually needed them. Passenger liners discovered their climate control systems had been programmed to make every cabin uncomfortably hot or cold depending on the species of the passengers. Military vessels trying to respond to the crisis found their weapons systems had been replaced with programs that made their ships launch colorful fireworks instead of Dangerous missiles. One entire battle fleet spent 3 days trying to attack a human colony only to discover their ships could only fire harmless light displays that entertained the human children instead of threatening them. But the most devastating attack came from Dr. Yoon-ji Hai herself, who had built the quantum communication relays that connected every important world in the galaxy. She began systematically shutting down communications between alien governments one star system at a time. Using her master access codes and 30 years of engineering experience, the Hegemony Council tried to coordinate a response to the human rebellion but discovered they could not send messages to their military commanders. The Vorthan Empire attempted to negotiate with other alien governments for help but found their communication networks completely dead. The Thalaxian Trade Federation wanted to organize an economic boycott of human colonies but could not contact their business partners on other worlds. Within 2 weeks, alien civilizations that had controlled the galaxy for thousands of years were reduced to sending messages by slow cargo ships that took months to travel between systems. Their advanced interstellar governments became collections of isolated worlds that could not work together because they could not talk to each other. Ambassador Zek Thralian of the Galactic Council sat in his office on the Council homeworld surrounded by dead computer screens, broken communication devices, and stacks of paper reports that had to be written by hand because the electronic systems no longer worked. He had spent 15 years dismissing human complaints about discrimination and unfair treatment, thinking humans were too weak and disorganized to do anything about their problems. Now Ambassador Thralian was learning that humans were neither weak nor disorganized. They had simply been choosing to be patient and peaceful while they built the technological infrastructure that kept galactic civilization running, and when the aliens pushed them too far, the humans had shown they could destroy that infrastructure just as efficiently as they had built it. Military Commander Grix Wardalon of the Alliance Defense Force was facing an even worse situation. His fleets were scattered across the galaxy with no way to communicate, coordinate, or even navigate properly. Worse, his ships were starting to malfunction in creative and embarrassing ways that seemed designed by someone with a very twisted sense of humor. One destroyer had its artificial gravity system reprogrammed to randomly flip upside down during important meetings, leaving the crew floating helplessly on the ceiling. A cruiser discovered its food synthesizers would only produce human cuisine, forcing the alien crew to eat foods they found disgusting. An entire battle group found their ship's computers programmed to navigate exclusively to human colonies where smiling human officials offered technical assistance at extremely high prices. Corporate leaders across the galaxy were discovering that their business empires had been built on human labor and expertise that they had never bothered to understand or appreciate. Mining operations shut down when human engineers quit. Manufacturing plants stopped working when human programmers left. Trade routes became impossible to navigate when human pilots walked away. The aliens tried to hire non-human technical workers to replace the humans who had quit, but discovered that no other species in the galaxy had the knowledge or skills needed to maintain the complex systems humans had built. Even worse, the human-built systems seemed to actively resist attempts by non-humans to repair or control them. When alien governments tried to use military force to compel humans to return to work, they discovered that their weapons did not function, their ships could not fly, and their communication equipment had been programmed to broadcast embarrassing personal messages instead of military orders. The galaxy was learning what humans had known all along. Modern civilization belonged to the people who understood it best, and humans, as it turned out, understood it very well indeed. The aliens had made the mistake of thinking that because humans were willing to work, they were also willing to be slaves, but there was a big difference between choosing to help and being forced to serve, and the humans were just getting started. 3 months after Captain Lee Jae-sung destroyed the Vorthan patrol ships that had demanded tribute from his cargo vessel, the galaxy had changed in ways that no alien government could have imagined. Alien civilizations that had ruled star systems for thousands of years were struggling to maintain basic services like electricity, water, and communications. Their advanced interstellar empires had become collections of isolated worlds, whose leaders could not coordinate any response to the human rebellion. Ambassador Zek Thralian of the Galactic Council had built his political career by dismissing human complaints about discrimination and unfair treatment. He had given speeches about how humans should be grateful for the opportunity to serve more advanced alien species and had voted for laws that treated humans as second-class citizens. Now he sat in his dark office surrounded by broken equipment trying to understand how his civilization had collapsed so completely. The ambassador tried to access government databases to find information about human technical workers, but discovered that all the computers showed error messages written in human languages he could not read. He attempted to contact other council members, but found that the quantum communication network had been completely shut down. He tried to transfer emergency funds to hire non-human engineers and learned that all the government money had somehow disappeared from the banking system's military commander. Grix Wardalon of the Alliance Defense Force was facing a crisis that threatened every alien military in the galaxy. His war fleets were scattered across hundreds of star systems with no way to communicate, coordinate their movements, or even navigate between planets. The ships that tried to return to base found their computers programmed to fly exclusively to human colonies, where they were met by polite human officials who offered to repair their systems for enormous fees. One battlecruiser had its life support systems reprogrammed to play human children's songs at maximum volume 24 hours a day until the alien crew was so exhausted they could barely function. A destroyer discovered its artificial gravity randomly switched between normal Earth gravity and the high-gravity conditions preferred by heavy world species, leaving the crew either floating helplessly or crushed against the floor. An entire battle group found their weapon systems replaced with programs that launched colorful fireworks and played human music whenever they tried to fire their guns. The alien crews spent days trying to attack targets only to create beautiful light shows that looked more like celebrations than military operations. Corporate leaders throughout alien space were learning that their business empires had been built on human knowledge, skills, and labor that they had never bothered to understand or appreciate. Mining operations on dozens of worlds shut down completely when human geological engineers quit and took their knowledge of ore locations with them. Manufacturing plants stopped producing goods when human programmers walked away and left the automated systems without anyone who knew how to operate them. The Central Banking Consortium discovered that human systems administrator Kang Min Su had not just stolen their money but had also programmed their computers to automatically transfer any new funds to human charitable organizations. The Galactic Shipping Authority found that human transportation coordinator Kim Byung-ho had reprogrammed their navigation systems, so all cargo ships were now delivering supplies to human colonies instead of their original destinations. Trade routes that had existed for centuries became impossible to navigate when human pilots stopped providing updated information about safe paths through asteroid fields, dangerous nebulas, and hostile territories. Alien captains who tried to fly these routes without human guidance found their ships damaged by cosmic hazards that humans had been helping them avoid for decades. The Thrilaxian Trade Federation attempted to organize an economic boycott of human colonies but discovered they could not contact their business partners on other worlds because Drunji Hai had shut down all the communication networks. The Hegemony Council tried to coordinate military action against human settlements but found they could not send orders to their commanders because the computer systems would not accept their authorization codes. When alien governments attempted to repair their damaged systems, they discovered that human engineers had been far more clever than anyone had realized. The technical documentation for most galactic infrastructure was written in human languages using human technical terms that other species could not understand. Even worse, the computer systems seemed to actively resist attempts by non-humans to access or modify them. Senator Vrak Korlian of the Hegemony spent 2 weeks trying to hire Zelenian computer experts to replace the human programmers who had quit his government but discovered that Zelenian technology was completely incompatible with the human design systems that ran his civilization. The few alien technicians who understood basic computer programming found themselves locked out of systems that required knowledge of human engineering principles. Dr. Thekvorthanian was considered one of the most brilliant Vorthan scientists of his generation, but when he tried to repair the communication systems on Vorthan Prime, he realized he did not understand the first thing about how quantum relays actually worked. The human engineers who had built and maintained these systems had made them seem simple, but Dr. Thek discovered they were incredibly complex devices that required years of specialized training to operate. The most frightening realization for alien leaders came when they tried to use military force to compel humans to return to work. They sent armed soldiers to human colonies demanding that human engineers fix their broken systems immediately. The military units discovered that their weapons had been sabotaged, their vehicles would not start, and their communication equipment broadcast embarrassing personal messages. Instead of military orders, General Krex Thalarin led a battalion of elite Vorthan troops to the human colony of New Sol, expecting to easily overwhelm the peaceful human settlers. Instead, he found that his soldiers' weapons fired harmless light beams, his vehicles had been programmed to drive in circles, and his communication equipment played human comedy shows. Instead of transmitting his orders, the human colonists politely offered to help repair his equipment in exchange for a formal apology and payment for past damages. Admiral Vex Corlian brought an entire battle fleet to threaten the human foe research station at New Inchin, but discovered that his ship's computers had been programmed to perform an elaborate dance routine instead of following his commands. The human scientists watched from their observation deck as dozens of military vessels spun and twisted through space in perfect synchronization. To human classical music, corporate security forces that tried to reclaim human-built facilities found their systems completely locked down, with messages that appeared on every screen saying human technicians were no longer available for unpaid overtime work. The security officers could not override the lockdowns because they did not know the access codes that only human engineers possessed. That was when alien leaders finally understood what they were dealing with. Humans were not just good at building and maintaining technology, they were the only species that truly understood the systems they had created. The galaxy had become completely dependent on human knowledge and expertise without any of the alien governments realizing how vulnerable that made them. More importantly, the aliens realized that humans had not been weak or passive. They had simply been choosing to be helpful and cooperative. When that choice was taken away, when humans were pushed too far and treated too badly, they revealed that they possessed capabilities that no alien species had ever imagined. Ambassador Zek Thralian spent his days sitting in his dark office writing reports by hand because he had no other way to document what was happening to his civilization. He was beginning to understand that the galaxy would never be the same because the humans who had built it were no longer willing to maintain it for people who treated them badly. The aliens were learning that cooperation had to be earned, not demanded, and that partnership required respect, not exploitation. And they were starting to realize that they would need to change everything about how they treated humans if they wanted their civilization to function again. But first, they would have to find a way to contact the humans and apologize for decades of discrimination and abuse, and that was going to be very difficult when humans controlled all the communication systems. 6 months after Captain Lee Jae-sung fired the first shots in what historians would later call the Great Human Awakening, Ambassador Zek Thralian found himself doing something that no Galactic Council member had ever done before. He was walking through the corridors of a human space station carrying a handwritten letter of apology and begging for an audience with human representatives. The ambassador had spent 3 months trying to contact human leaders using every method he could think of, but discovered that humans controlled all the communication systems in the galaxy. The few alien governments that still functioned had been reduced to sending messages by slow cargo ships that took weeks or months to travel between star systems. Their advanced interstellar civilization had become as primitive as it had been thousands of years ago. Dr. Yunji Hai met Ambassador Thralian in a simple conference room on New Sol Station, where she had established the headquarters for what humans were calling the Galactic Infrastructure Management Council. The 65-year-old engineer who had built the quantum communication networks that connected hundreds of worlds sat across from the alien diplomat who had spent years dismissing human complaints about unfair treatment. The human delegation included Captain Lee Jae-sung, whose cargo ship had started the Rebellion Navigator Park Min Ho, who had become an expert on alien military weaknesses, engineer Kim So-ra, who now designed defensive systems for human colonies, communications officer Choi Dae-hyun, who coordinated resistance activities across human space, and dozens of other humans who represented different aspects of the new movement. Ambassador Thralian began his presentation by explaining how alien civilizations had collapsed without human technical support. He described how governments could not communicate, how military forces could not coordinate, how businesses could not function, and how billions of aliens were suffering because basic services no longer worked. When he finished his long speech, Dr. Yoon Ji-hai smiled kindly and asked a very simple question. She wanted to know what the alien governments were prepared to offer in exchange for human assistance. She explained that humans had tried being helpful for decades and had been rewarded with discrimination, exploitation, and abuse. She said humans were no longer willing to work as servants for species that treated them badly, but they were willing to work as equal partners with civilizations that offered them respect and fair treatment. The negotiations took 8 months because the aliens had never imagined they would need to treat humans as equals. Ambassador Thralian had to return to his government many times to explain that humans would not accept anything less than complete equality in all aspects of galactic civilization. He had to convince alien leaders who had considered humans inferior for centuries that they would need to change their entire way of thinking. The breakthrough came when Prime Minister Thekvorthak of the Vorthan Empire personally traveled to New Seoul Station to meet with Dr. Yoon Ji-hai, the same alien leader who had signed laws forcing human traders to pay triple taxes. Now found himself asking a human engineer for permission to use the communication systems that connected his empire. Dr. Yoon Ji-hai listened to the Prime Minister's explanation of how much his people were suffering without human technical support. Then she activated a quantum relay that showed him real-time images of human colonies that were thriving with clean, energy-efficient transportation, advanced medical care, and prosperous economies. The contrast between human success and alien failure was impossible to ignore. The final agreement was called the Galactic Cooperation Charter, and it completely transformed the relationship between humans and aliens. The charter established humans as equal partners in all galactic institutions with the same rights, responsibilities, and opportunities as any other species. Human corporations received the same trade protections as alien businesses. Human colonies got the same development funding as alien worlds. Human workers earned the same wages as their alien counterparts. More importantly, the charter established the Human Technical Services Consortium as an independent organization responsible for maintaining all galactic infrastructure. Never again would human engineers, programmers, and technicians work as employees of alien corporations who could fire them or mistreat them. Instead, they would operate as respected professionals whose expertise was properly valued and compensated. Captain Lee Jae-sung returned to his career as a cargo ship captain, but now his vessel flew under the protection of the Galactic Cooperation Treaty instead of being harassed by alien patrol ships demanding bribes. The trade routes he traveled were safe and profitable because human pilots worked together to share information about navigation hazards and business opportunities. Engineer Kim So-ra started her own starship design company and became wealthy, selling her innovative designs to alien governments who desperately needed human engineering expertise to rebuild their damaged fleets. Her ships were faster, safer, and more efficient than anything aliens had built because she understood the technology in ways that other species could not match. Navigator Park Min Ho established the Galactic Navigation Academy, where he trained pilots from dozens of different species in the advanced techniques that humans had developed for interstellar travel. His school became famous throughout the galaxy because graduates could navigate routes that other pilots considered impossible. Communications officer Choi Dae-hyun became the director of the reformed Galactic Broadcasting Network, where he worked to promote understanding and cooperation between different species. His programs showed aliens and humans working together as equals and helped heal the mistrust that had built up over decades of discrimination. Dr. Yoon Ji-hai was elected as the first human director general of the Galactic Communications Authority, overseeing the networks that connected thousands of worlds. In her inaugural speech, she said something that became famous throughout the galaxy and was taught in schools on hundreds of planets. She explained that humans were not naturally aggressive or violent and preferred cooperation to conflict, peace to war, and friendship to hostility. But she also said humans were not naturally submissive or willing to accept unfair treatment. When pushed too far, humans did not just fight back, they rebuilt entire systems to make sure the problems could never happen again. The aliens learned their lesson well and discovered that humans were indeed excellent partners when treated with respect and dignity. Human innovation helped solve problems that had plagued galactic civilization for centuries. Human engineering made interstellar travel safer, and more efficient human diplomacy helped resolve conflicts between alien species that had been fighting for generations, but the aliens never forgot what had happened when humans finally decided to stop being nice in schools throughout the galaxy. Alien children learned about the great human awakening and the important lesson it taught about never underestimating the people who keep civilization running, because those people have the power to turn everything off whenever they choose. Human colonies throughout the galaxy grew and prospered as equal members of Galactic Civilization. Systems Administrator Kang Min Soo became the director of the reformed Galactic Banking Consortium, where he established fair lending practices and eliminated the discriminatory policies that had hurt human businesses for decades. Database engineer Song Hai-jin founded the Universal Medical Record System that ensured all species received equal treatment in hospitals, regardless of their planet of origin. Network Security Chief Nam Tae-woo established the Galactic Cybersecurity Institute, where he trained security experts from all species to protect the computer systems that ran modern civilization. His students learned that the best security came from cooperation and mutual respect rather than suspicion and control. Transportation coordinator Kim Byung-ho became head of the Reformed Shipping Authority, where he created efficient trade routes that benefited all species equally. The human colonies that had once struggled under alien taxation and discrimination became centers of innovation and prosperity. New Seoul grew into a major trading hub where alien and human merchants worked together as partners. New Bizan became famous for its agricultural technology that helped feed hungry populations on dozens of worlds. New Incheon evolved into a research center where scientists from many species collaborated on projects that improved life throughout the galaxy. Human space stations became neutral meeting grounds where alien governments could resolve disputes through diplomacy rather than warfare. The techniques that humans had developed for working together during their rebellion proved invaluable for organizing peaceful cooperation between species that had been enemies for centuries. Captain Lee Jae-sung eventually retired from cargo hauling and became an instructor at the Galactic Trade Academy, where he taught young people from all species about fair business practices and mutual respect. His students learned that successful commerce required treating all partners as equals, regardless of their species or planet of origin. The most important change was in how different species viewed each other. Aliens who had once considered humans inferior learned to appreciate human creativity, problem-solving abilities, and dedication to fairness. Humans who had been angry about decades of mistreatment chose forgiveness over revenge and worked to build a better future for everyone. Dr. Yoon Ji-hai lived to